Hello and welcome to another episode. I am Brian, the Unskilled Commander. I appreciate you checking out my channel. Please have a look around. You can throw some likes down, subscribe if you haven't already. And I also hope you're having a good day. Hopefully this will help with that, hopefully you'll laugh maybe at some of my mistakes or see some awesome cards that you want to try on your own. Today's matchup is going to be a little bit of a twist on things slightly in the fact that this is all token decks. We have Rin Siri, Alayla, Pranko, and Harbin. So Harbin isn't quite token generating, but it's still like the point is all four of these decks are all about making a lot of creatures, hopefully, or having a lot of creatures on the battlefield for straight combat damage. So I thought it would be interesting to see if I pit them all against each other, which ones perform better. So obviously, Alayla is the oldest out of the four and has had the most upgrades. Harbin, my soldier deck, has also had a decent amount of upgrades, even though it's newer, because I really like the idea and was trying to focus on that one. Prinko Goblins. Goblins are a pretty simple deck to build. It goes off relatively easy, so there's not too much complexity, and you don't have to have a lot of skill to build that deck or run it. So it should be pretty decent. And Rin Siri has had some okay interactions with past games. It's done some decent stuff. It could be probably a lot better, but we'll see. I've already rolled the dice, and Rin Siri is going to go first, so let's jump into the game. Paramorphic Expanse, cracking it for a forest. And then I will pass turn. Draw for turn over here. Play a plains. Nothing we can do, we'll pass. Draw for the goblins. Playing the obvious mountain. No one drops, will pass. Draw for a Layla. Choked estuary. You can reveal a swamp or an island to have it come in untapped, which I do have, but there's no real point because I don't have any one drops. So we're going to go ahead and leave it tapped. Also, I actually have a 0-drop creature, but it's an artifact, and the whole point of a Layla is, of course, to get her on the battlefield first before you start dropping all of the artifacts. So we will pass. Untap, upkeep, draw. I will play a Copperline Gorge. Comes in tapped unless you control 2 or fewer lands, which that is the case. So I will tap a red and a green to play Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Always good in a token deck. I believe it's in Goblins because why wouldn't it be? We will then go ahead and pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. Play an island for turn. I do have enough to play my commander, Harbin, Vanguard Aviator. It's a 3/2 flyer, right off the bat, pretty solid for a 2-drop. Whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain flying until end of turn. So obviously the idea is to get as many soldiers on the battlefield as quickly as possible, swing and immediately go into the air and get buffed. But that's all we can do, so we'll pass. Untap, upkeep, draw. Play a mountain for turn over here. Still no 2-drops, so we'll pass. It's probably for the best that Goblins goes slow, but at the same time, we don't want to pull our punches because the idea is to see how the decks do and for the entire channel in terms of like finding their weaknesses. So if Goblin ends up winning all 3 matches, then and Goblins really hasn't been upgraded that much. I went and bought a few Goblins that made more sense versus the ones I had, but not that many, honestly. Probably only like 5, I don't know, 5 to 10 max cards were bought for that deck beyond what I already had. So if it does really well, again, that just shows how simple Goblins, like Goblins, Elves, and Big Green Stompy is pretty easy, and it's a great starter. I wouldn't say Goblins necessarily are a great starter because there is a lot of interactions within the cards. Because this Goblin says if this happens, do that, so it's a lot to keep track of. But it's a really easy, powerful deck to build once you've done 1 or 2, and you want something a little faster and a little more solid. But anyway, we're going to draw for turn over here. I will play a Swamp for turn, tapping both to play Bitter Blossom. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life and create a 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature token with flying. I'll put this on the deck to remind myself I have an upkeep trigger. I always recommend people do that because it's so easy to forget your upkeep triggers. So I will be taking damage every upkeep now, but I'll be popping out 1/1 flyers early on in the game, so that's a real benefit. We will pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. I will play a plains. Really nothing I can do that's there's cards I could play 1 or 2, but well, really just 1. It's best to have the commander out before you play those ones. So we're gonna sit and see what happens. Pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. I'll play a Rogue's Passage, tapping all 3 for Icon of Ancestry. As it enters, I will choose a creature type choosing soldiers. Creatures you control of that type get +1/+1, and you can pay 3 and tap it to look at the top 3 cards of your library, reveal a creature of the chosen type, put it in your hand, put the rest on the bottom in any order. So there really aren't any other creatures, so you're absolutely going to want to start swinging, especially since getting the buff. So it is now a 4/2 flying commander on turn 3. Very, very good. No one is really a threat, so it's kind of like whoever you want to go to. To be on the safe side, everyone knows Goblins is a problem, so we will go ahead and send 4 damage to you and pass turn. That's upset Goblins for sure. So we're going to untap, upkeep, draw, play a mountain for turn. It would be foolish not to, so we're going to go ahead and play Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin. Whenever Krenko attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krenko's power. He's currently just a 1/2, but next time we go to combat, he'll be a 2/3, and you'll make 2 goblin creature tokens that are prepped for blocking and attacking. We will pass turn. Untap, upkeep trigger. I'm going to lose a life and make a 1/1 black fairy creature token. These creature tokens here are from Proxy Forge. They make all kinds of really cool proxies and tokens, so check them out. It's not any kind of sponsorship or anything. The artwork they provide is just really amazing. So I grabbed some of their tokens for some of my decks. Now we will draw for turn. I'll play a Plains for turn, so I have all 3 colors available for my commander, but regrettably I still can't play the commander yet. But I will be able to on next turn. At least we have a blocker. So I'm going to go ahead and pass. Untap, upkeep, draw over here. Not a land, which is not good. So we're going to have to go ahead and tap 3 to play Kamanu Battle Armor. It's a 2/2 equipment dog. Equip creature, if you were to equip it, or reconfigure it rather, it gets +2/+2 and has menace. Otherwise, the dog itself just is a 2/2 and it has menace. Impact Tremor triggers though, so each opponent takes a damage. This was the card I was sitting on because I could have played this last turn, but you want to play Dogs and Cats once Rin and Siri is out to get the token creation. However, because everyone else is making creatures, we can't sit on our laurels and just take the hit and waste time. Because even if I get a land next turn, I will only be able to play one thing at a time. So we want to start getting something. We'll pass. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. I will play an island. Tap all 4. Play Might Overseer. It's a 4/2 Phyrexian soldier with first strike. As long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and have first strike. And you can pay 4 to create a colorless 1/1 Might token. We're going to move to combat. Still, no, everyone has stuff, but no one is still a threat yet. Franco could start being a threat real quickly, but we have to wait and see. Now, they do have a flyer, so I will send 4 damage at you, mana damage, and we will pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. Actually, not a land, which is slightly suboptimal, but we're going to tap 1, 2, 3 for Bonder's Ornament, because at least we have some sort of ramp. Tapping the Bonder's Ornament for 1 red to play the card I just drew, Goblin Motivator, a 1/1, and you can tap. Target creature gains haste until end of turn. Really, the only place we can send Krenko without it being destroyed is at the Fairy. So we'll move to combat, because we need to get that trigger going, which means it will get a +1/+1 counter on it, and we will make 2 1/1 Goblin tokens. Now you can either take 2 commander damage, or you can block with your Fairy. Since you're dealing damage to yourself with Bitter Blossom, I think we will go ahead and block with Fairy. Plus, it's about to be our turn, so we're going to make another one. If it was like this sort of thing was happening over here, if they were reversed or something, and we had a few more turns before they got to us, we might, take it to try and leave up for defense against a bigger attacker. But they blocked. We made the tokens. That's all we can do. We're going to pass turn. Upkeep. We take a damage. Make another Fairy again. Draw for turn. I'll play a Swamp, tapping all 4 to play a Layla, Artful Provocateur, a 2/3 with flying, death touch, and lifelink. In and of itself, that's pretty awesome. Other creatures with flying get +1/+0, so now this is a 2/1. And finally, whenever you cast an artifact or enchantment spell, create a 1/1 blue fairy creature token with flying. Now, thankfully, I don't have any open mana, or not thankfully, but I have open mana. I don't have any open mana, however, thankfully, I have that 0-drop I mentioned, an Ornithopter. It's a 0/2 flyer. With Alayla out, it's a 1/2 flyer. And because I played an artifact, I get another fairy. Now, obviously, the difference between Bitter Blossom and Alayla's are Bitter Blossom makes black 1/1 fairies, and Alayla makes 1/1 blue fairies. So there's no easy way that the tokens aren't any different color or anything. Well, actually, you know what? I do have these original tokens, so we'll do that way, because that's a blue border, that's black. That way we can kind of try and know what's what. So now this fairy, nope, that was just made this turn. So we actually cannot attack with anything specifically. Everything's got summoning sickness, but we have a pretty decent board state in terms of defense. Nothing is huge, but we have a lot of them. So we're going to pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. We really need a land. It's not, but it's semi-okay. It's an arcane signet. So we're going to go ahead. That's all we can really do, unfortunately. No point in attacking, especially with flyers out and a bunch of goblins. So we're going to have to pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. The Fair Baliska comes in tapped. It taps for white, but you can also tap 2 and sacrifice it to draw a card. I will tap the Rogue's Passage for a colorless to play Spectrum Sentinel, a 1/2 with protection from multicolor. Whenever a non-basic land enters the battlefield under your control, under an opponent's control, you gain 1 life. I was almost like, oh, I played that out of order, but it's when it happens for an opponent. So you got to be. That's the kind of thing where in the games like this, I'm not going to remember. I'm going to try, but I probably won't remember until I come back around and see it in front of me. But we're moving along. We have 3 soldiers out. Ideally, it should be moving a little faster. We should have some better ramp in terms of mana rocks or something along the way instead of the cards in my hand that really don't help quite yet. I do have enough mana to cast the other soldier in my hand. However, I don't have the right colors. I need 2 white to cast it, and unfortunately this white came in tapped. But like I said, we do have our flyer, and that is already starting to be a thing, so we're going to start focusing back on you. 4 in the air, and to be honest, I can kind of already see that because Goblins is easily a threat quickly, it's going to be taken out first most games, and I hate dogpiling on one character. I hate auto-targeting, I understand the logic of it, though. I've discussed this with my Brewback Mill deck, and when I had Talk Troll before I took it apart. Certain commanders just get that instant hate no matter what happens, although clearly there's justification for some of it, but at the same time, it's not entirely fair because they haven't done anything quite yet. Yes, they've got 4 goblins on the field, but so what? They're all just 1/1s, and it's like they're not doing anything yet. They've done literally no damage to anybody, and now everyone's like, oh, the goblins, get them. We'll try and play this out as fair as possible and as logically as possible. I'm not going to ignore the threat just to go after goblins. So I will pass turn. But let's see if we can make goblins the threat. We're going to untap, upkeep, draw. I will tap for a soul ring I just drew, because that's helpful. And I'm not being sarcastic, that's actually helpful. We'll go ahead and tap 2 red and soul ring to play Beetleback Chief. It's a 2/2. Whenever it enters the battlefield, however, you create 2 1/1 red goblin creature tokens. So these 2 have summoning sickness, these ones do not. I have 1 floating or 1 extra mana, nothing I can do with it. So we're going to move to combat. Now the question is, where do we go? Really, the only option now is to go towards the Rin and Ciri player, because we're going to move to combat, swinging Krenko, it's going to get a counter, making it a 3/4, which that cannot destroy. And when that happens, we make another 3 goblins, so this is now 5 have summoning sickness. These 2 do not. I could swing these somewhere, and I guess I should theoretically swing them at the Rin and Ciri player as well, just to get extra damage through. And we've got a bunch of flyers, so keeping them up isn't really. Now, obviously, you need to do this at the declaration of attack step. You can't send that, try and do damage, and figure it out, and then send. You have to decide before you actually move to declare blockers. But so we will send them in that direction because it seems like the smartest play. So in that sense, because we don't want to take commander damage, but at the same time, Rin and Ciri is clearly already starting out at quite the deficit. So we're going to go ahead and just block one of the goblin tokens, killing it, taking 2, 3, 4 damage. Yeah, 3 commander, 1 normal. That's all we can do here. We will pass turn. So as you can see, goblins is already pulling ahead in terms of just sheer volume. And if there was a way in red, mono red, to give them all flying, which I'm sure there is, it's not a major thing for red, but I'm sure there's got to be a couple that can do it. If you could somehow give your entire board state flying for just 1 turn, goblins would be extremely more so dangerous than they already are. But we're going to come over here. We're going to untap, upkeep, lose a life, make a fairy, draw a card for turn, play an island. I will tap 3 for a Palladium Myrrh, which will make another blue fairy. I have 2 left, and you know what? They are the right colors. I didn't plan for it, but I should have. A black and a blue to play Time Seed. It's an artifact that says tap it and sacrifice 5 artifacts. Take an extra turn after this one. That is an artifact, which means I get another fairy. So we'll do it like this. These two blue fairies have summoning sickness. This one does not, and this one has summoning sickness down here. So clean up the board state a little bit, try and make it a little easier for you guys watching. So we've got all four of these are capable of attacking. They're not super huge. However, there's a lot going on, so we should get attacking. Goblins is going to have 6 1/1s plus 7 1/1s, a 2/2. They don't sound that big and scary when it's just a 1/1, but that volume gets through. Oh, well, you just took 7, 8 damage. That's a lot. So we do have to be mindful of that. We don't want to worry about Rin and Siri because they're clearly behind. There's no point in dogpiling on them for no dogpiling, but there's no point in attacking them for no reason. These two are the threats from Fairy's perspective, so that's what we need to focus on. And they have the highest life total, and they're going, if they get too many more soldiers, they'll have flying just like us. I say we swing the board at them just to get things a little more even. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 total damage. 2 of it's going to be commander. So then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Alayla is lifelink, so we gain 2 life. And we still have 4 blockers, 3 of which are flying. And now we have the highest life total, which of course is going to make us the target, but still, we're going to pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. Still not a land. Very, very bad. Obviously, we need to tap all 4 to get our commander out. Rin and Siri inseparable. The 4/4. Whenever you cast a dog spell, create a 1/1 green cat creature token. Whenever you cast a cat spell, create a 1/1 white dog creature token. You can pay red, green, and white and tap Rin and Siri to deal damage equal to the number of dogs you control and gain life equal to the number of cats you control. Creature came in, so we will have the opponents take 1 damage each, but unfortunately that's still all we can do. We'll pass. Untap, upkeep, draw over here. Sea of Clouds comes in tapped unless you have 2 more opponents. I do. I will tap 2 white to play Precinct Captain. It's a 2/2 first strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. I'm going to tap 3. Now this is an instant. We probably should do it at this player's main phase 1. It will have the same effect, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to play Leadership Vacuum. Target player returns each commander they control from the battlefield to the command zone, and we draw a card. So draw a card for turn. We're going to put Krenko back in your command zone. It will now cost 2 more to cast. We'll just move this up to 6 now for when we untap. And again, clean up the board state a little bit. Now, like I said, you should probably do those on end steps of things or at the end of your main phase. However, even because the Krenko doesn't have haste, even if they recast it on their main phase, it won't gain them more creature tokens, so it's okay. If they had haste or if their ability of the commander affected their board state, which we've done this and messed this up in past games, some recently, you actually want to wait and blow it up before it moves to the combat step or whatever step triggers the ability of the commander. So all we can do in terms of playing cards, we will then move to combat. Because they're at 30 and their commander's gone, I don't feel that they're the threat anymore. They're not the threat. We need to send Harbin at you, and I think we might even send Overseer as well because it has first strike. So that is a 4/3 in the air. 1, 2, 3. So if we did stack block, we would blow up their commander. And then because this has first strike, whatever they blocked with would die. Playing the Palladium Myrrh did its effect by getting us a fairy. However, if we block and destroy them all, and block with the Palladium Myrrh, then we lose the extra mana as well, which we might need to recast the commander. So we're going to not block with the Palladium Myrrh. And I think what we'll do is we will just block 1-1. 1 blue fairy against Harbin, 1 blue fairy against the Might. They both die, and that's that. We will then pass turn. Untap over here, upkeep, draw. I'll tap Soul Ring for an Arcane Signet, and then I guess 1, 2, 3 commander attacks to recast Krenko. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Goblin Motivator. We can tap that to give Krenko haste and begin again. Clearly the thing to do. This character didn't read all of Krenko's tokens or creatures like they should have asked. So yeah, we're going to tap Motivator to give Krenko haste and move to combat. Swinging Krenko at you, it gets the counter again. It is now a 2/3, so you cannot destroy it unless you stack block, which might be a good idea at this point. But even so, it's going to make 2 more goblin tokens. Alright, so that's the beginning of declaring attackers. I haven't finished yet because it says whenever it attacks, do this thing. These 6 goblins, should they go somewhere? They still really don't have a lot going on over here that's like That was a mere 7 damage in the air. Not a small hit, but at the same time, and of course we're down to 30, so 7 damage is a lot. Do we want to focus on the person that's doing the most damage to us, which is probably the smart one? And I think that is what we will do. We'll send 6 at you. You'll, of course, block 2 of them, killing them, going down to 4 goblins, so you'll take 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And in terms of you, you've got a 2/3 commander coming at you. We could destroy it. It's probably the smart move, unfortunately, so we will have to stack block, which will destroy Krenko again, making it much harder to cast next turn, buying Alayla the time she needs. So that's all we can do here. We will pass turn. Untap, upkeep, take a damage, make a fairy, draw a card for turn. All right, we will play an island. I will tap 3, play Skittering Surveyor. It's a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So first of all, we played an artifact, so we make a blue fairy, and I will go grab a plains. Getting a plains, putting it into my hand, and I have just enough left. Tapping a blue, a white, and one more to play Empyrean Eagle. It's a 2/3 flyer. Other creatures you control with flying get +1/+1. So now we're double buffing the flyers, and that's starting to get a big deal. These all have summoning sickness. These don't. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage in the air. But once more, where do we go? That's going to be still 6. It's going to be harder for them to recast. I think Alayla doesn't have to completely worry about the goblins right now. However, with the soldiers, they only need one more soldier on the field able to attack before they all get flying and +1/+1. I don't know that there's really too many soldiers in there that give haste or have haste when they are cast. However, we do have ways of making more soldiers over there at least. So that's probably something we need to focus on. So I think we will go ahead and send everybody. Yeah, we will send everything at you. And that's going to be another 1, 2, 3 commander. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we are definitely at the point of the game where, unless there's a very obvious threat, you probably should start just taking out one person that can be the threat. So it's like basically we're going to probably just finish them off on Alayla's next turn if they can, then focus on goblins because by that time goblins will probably recast Krenko and start coming in again, saving Rin and Seri for last. However, you do have to be concerned that a lot of the games you play in Commander, the person that wins can in fact be the person that did nothing most of the game and got left alone and then swoops in at the last second with some decent plays. If Alayla focuses on taking both of them out while leaving Rin and Seri alone and they're finally able to start playing some dogs and cats, they may be able to do some things and crack back and take out Alayla. Especially because by doing what Alayla's doing, they're becoming the threat, so everyone's going to focus on them as well. However, that is all we can do. We will go ahead and pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. Still not a land. We're going to tap 4 and play Parallel Lives. If in effect we create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many tokens instead. Nothing else we can do. That is a very big deal in this deck because if we are able to start playing some cats and dogs, they'll be making more tokens, which means more damage off of impact tremors. The rest of the table should be taking note of that. However, they are already at 32 life, so it's not like they're even the highest life total. We will pass. Untap, upkeep, draw, return. Path of Ancestry comes in tapped. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Vanquisher's Banner. As Vanquisher's Banner enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, soldiers. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1, and whenever you cast this spell of the chosen type, draw a card. Excellent card for any kind of kindred deck where it's all the same type, and especially if there's synergy within the cards. So now all of my soldiers are getting +2/+2, and there's some built-in card draw if I'm able to start playing some. So what sucks is for soldiers at this point, it's not looking good. There's not much we can do. I'm tempted to swing out at Alayla because we got this massive buff. Only one of them is flying, but we got a good first striker, and then actually 2 first strikers, and protection from multicolor. So that would mean that the eagle couldn't block the sentinel at least. So it's a good threat of damage. However, they have 4 creatures, they could just simply block one of each. Nothing would get through. If those 4 would be destroyed, yes. And so that would mean a theoretical crackback of only, quote unquote, only 11, leaving us with 5 life. But they wouldn't be any lower. And of course, goblins could try and take advantage of that because we would be tapped out, swing just 5 of their 6 goblin tokens in, killing us, getting the kill, and then However, it would be kind of foolish for goblins to do that because what would be the really smart move is if soldiers swung out, hook out those four blockers, then goblin swings in with everything they have to deal some decent damage to a Layla. However, you'd have to be the whole politicking thing would have to kick in there to discuss it. Regrettably, I think that's just what we have to do without bothering to worry about if there's any kind of consensus or talking, because obviously they're all me, so I can't politic with myself. However, soldiers is at that position is if they don't take those four out, then they absolutely die on a Layla's turn because they will have more than enough damage in the air, even with if I left Harbin up to get through. So we swing everything. This is 3, 4, 5, 6 is 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18 damage coming at you. You could honestly even take it. However, that would be a little foolish. So we'll block Harbin with the flyer, the fairy. That gets destroyed, of course. And we'll go ahead and block the big first striker with the other fairy. And we might as well go ahead. This has already done its job, so we'll block the second first striker with that. However, we'll let the spectrum, because it actually can't be blocked by that anyway. So yeah, 1, 2, 3. 3 damage gets through. That's all they can do. Soldiers will pass turn, anticipating their imminent demise. Untap over here. This is now a total of 6 1/1 goblins. Oops. Draw up a turn. Ooh, that's a really good one to do right now. 1, 2, 3. A raid bombardment. Whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, a raid bombardment deals 1 damage to player or planeswalker that creature is attacking. No, this is untapped. So in that case, you might as well send the battalion because they will all trigger raid bombardment. 1, 2, well, 6, 7, 8. So that's going to be, we're all attacking you, obviously. That's going to be 8 damage no matter what. Oops, 8 damage. Now you've got 6 1/1s, well, 7 1/1s technically, and a 2/2. You'll block the 2/2 with your 2/3. It gets destroyed, and then you take 7 more damage. Right? I don't believe there's no buffs on the field, and nothing. I don't believe I'm forgetting anything over there. Alayla is no longer the threat. Now, Goblins only has 7 creatures that are 1/1s. Yes, they will automatically deal 7 damage to whoever they're attacking before blockers are declared and all that, but that's not enough to kill anybody. They're at 32, so that's a big deal. We're going to pass. Untap, upkeep, we lose a life, which is bad at this point. Make another fairy, draw a card for turn, play the planes we got last turn. 4, 5, 6. Uana, Queen of the Fae. A flying 5/5. You can pay X and a black or a blue. Choose a color. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library. For each card of the chosen color exiled this way, create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature rogue with flying. So if we get to another turn, that's a great way to dump all of our mana into that, and especially if we were playing a monocolored deck, which we are, so we could choose red, do it on you, and make like hopefully a whole bunch of creatures. So as it stands, because unfortunately, well, no, this is no longer summoning sickness, so it's up there. So this is what we've got: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 damage in the air, not enough to kill anyone. And by effectively swinging out, we still would have 2 relatively okay blockers, one decent one just chump blocker. And again, we do need to take note that Vernon Seri is in the game starting now. We should send all of that to goblins most likely to get everyone down. However, that wouldn't even lower it enough for us to kill it on the next turn because we're going to obviously lose both these defending against everyone. So the question is, if we send everything over there, they'll be at 2 life. Maybe Rin and Seri would be incentivized to go and swing in and just take them out. But I'm not entirely sure Rin and Seri. At this point, I think the Rin and Seri player would just keep their mouth shut, play their game, not interact with the board state at all until they are able to play a couple more creatures. And at that point, it would be too late for anyone else to stop them. If they start swinging their turn, it's going to draw too much attention. Everyone at the table already knows, you know what, Rin and Seri is probably going to win if we don't do something, guys. But everyone is at this weird little standoff where it's like, yeah, we're all kind of the same threat level. No one's a massive threat, but everyone's kind of a threat. But I think because, like I said, we know that if wherever Goblins goes and sends their creatures, they're going to take instant damage off of Raid Bombardment. We don't have anything to get rid of enchantments across the board on any of these in anyone's hands currently. There are definitely cards within these decks that do that, but nobody has them. So we're going to send everything at you. You have no flyers to defend, so that's 2 damage, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage. And we do gain 3 life, so that could be a bit of a, that could mean something at the end of a game. Nothing else we can do, so we're going to pass. Unfortunately, we don't even have enough artifacts left that we could even try and take an extra turn. But again, well, the extra turn would have us enough to kill someone, but then we would definitely be wide open. But we've only got literally only one artifact, which is crazy. Pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw. Well, it's a land, but unfortunately it's a Cabaret courtyard. It's going to come in and we sacrifice it to get either a mountain, a forest, or a plains. Put it on the battlefield tapped, but we do gain a life. I think we're going to go get a plains because we have some cards in here that are double white. All right, so we're going to play a really cool new card that just came out recently. We're going to tap 4 and play Roaming Throne. It's a 4/4 artifact golem with Ward 2. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. We'll choose, you know what, we're going to choose cat. So as it enters the battlefield, it is the chosen type in addition to its other type. So it enters as a cat. And if a triggered ability of another creature you control of the chosen type triggers, it triggers an additional time. However, it hasn't entered the battlefield yet. So on cast, oh, so it actually doesn't count to do that. Darn it. Because the way the stack works, when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, so it doesn't become a cat until it hits the battlefield. So it's too late to get the token trigger off of Rin in this series. So in fact, what we do is still tap 4, but the better play is Maskwood Nexus. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creature spells you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So now, starting now, whenever we play a creature, it's both a cat and a dog, so it will make both tokens, which parallel lives will then double, and all of the impact tremors will go off. So yes, now Rin Siri is a threat. But that's all we can do. We will pass turn. And we untap, upkeep, draw for turn, play the island we just drew, which is not the greatest. We're going to tap 2 blue and play Anticipate. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, the rest to the bottom in any order. All right, we're going to tap 2 white and 2 others. We're using Path of Ancestry, so we're going to cast Bard, Steward of Argive. It's a 2/4 human with vigilance, and creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1 for each of those creatures. Because we use Path of Ancestry, we get to scry 1 because it shares a type with our commander. I'll go ahead and leave that on top. Not sure if we'll quite get there, but... So now if anybody wants to swing in, they gotta pay extra, which means they gotta leave mana up for it. Oh, the non-basic land thing. I totally forgot about that. They don't have to worry about it. Choked Estuary was the first thing we played over there, so if they didn't get it, and we haven't even played lands except for basics, so or that's a non-basic, so that would deal damage to you. Or no, other way around, we gain a life. At least I remembered it at some point, and it wasn't really that big of a deal. But who knows, one life point can sometimes make all the difference. So if we swung Harbin in, they could block with Uana, or Ona, however you say it, and they would both get destroyed, but that would and it's only a 2-drop to be the first time it's destroyed, so we have more than enough mana to recast. And it says whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, doesn't say anything about Harbin being part of that attacking. However, at that point we would only have 4 attacking, so it still wouldn't trigger. But they do have that ability off of Luana that they can use on goblins to make a lot of fairies. Goblins is wide open too. Alright, so this is summoning sickness, these are not. That's all flying, so it's irrelevant to keep Harbin up, of course, for a blocker, but I think we're going to go ahead and send all 3 of these at you. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 damage coming at you. Nothing you can do. You're completely open. You take all of it. Now it could be like, oh, but why you come at me? They're the threat. And it's like, yes, but unbeknownst to everyone else, we have a Wrath of God in our hands to destroy all creatures. They can't be regenerated. That will hurt us, of course, as well. But the idea is wait for them because they're going to have to use all of that mana. If they want to do that, because most likely the way things are playing out, you would assume that goblins will either crack back at us or swing in on them, probably actually attack us. So they're going to use before they kill goblins, they'll use their ability, gain a whole bunch of fairies, kill goblins, and also send some more at us. We'll barely be alive, and they really won't have enough mana necessary or enough non-summoning sick creatures to kill us because they're only going to have 6 damage on board. It gets to us, we board wipe, we immediately replay our commander, we're poised to do something before anyone else can. So Soldiers is still in this one. We will pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. We still have the guy that can make haste, so yeah, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and tap everything to make 4 from the commander tax to recast Krenko. We'll tap the Goblin Motivator to give Krenko haste. Now the question is where, because now Krenko will get destroyed if we send him somewhere, though. So maybe we don't do that. We don't give him haste, rather. But what we are going to do is we're going to send everything. You killed us, so we're going to kill you. We send everything at you. No, it's very difficult because it changes every game. Sometimes you want to be like, well, you don't want a king make. You really don't want a king make if possible. However, there's also the whole, hey, you screwed me over. I'm going to screw you over right before I die. And then so neither one of us wins. Ha ha. That kind of mentality, which isn't the best. That's a little petty, but at the same time, it's kind of valid too. So we're sending all 7 at you. That's going to hit you for 7 damage off of raid bombardment. And then you've got 7 creatures to block. You can block 2 of them. You'll block the guy that gives haste, of course, destroying that. And then you'll block one of these guys, which means you will take another 5, which means Rin and Siri could swoop in and kill you if the Flyers don't do it anyway, which they probably will. So that sucks. So Wrath of God won't come around. We'll pass turn. And the thing is, I was actually really pleased with that. I'm like, oh yeah, soldiers can actually win this. That's pretty cool. I didn't swing into them with goblins to stop that, but that's just kind of like 7 damage off of 20, and then 3 would get through. So 10 off, they'd be down to 10. They would still be at 17. You're kind of just like, I don't know. I think at this point, goblins would be more upset with them, and they'd be like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to help, Ren and Siri win because they're going to win anyway. So now we come over here, we untap, upkeep, we lose a life, we make a summoning sickness fairy, we draw a card for turn, play a swamp. Well, these are all untapped, first of all. We will then tap the black and the blue to play Baleful Strix. Flying Death Touch, when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, which is awesome. And also, it is an artifact creature, so we then make another blue fairy, and we can afford to play the card we just drew. So we will tap a blue and a black to play Obira, Dreaming Duelist, a 2/2 flash flyer. Whenever another fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. Now, obviously, we couldn't have played that in any other order because that's the card we literally just drew off of Baleful Strix. Now, in terms of Luana's ability, we are drastically lowered on our ability to gain off of goblins, but we're still going to try it. We're going to tap a black and then dump 3 into it. X being 3, choosing red, target opponent exiles the top 3 cards of the library. For each card of the chosen color, we make a blue and black fairy. So that's a land that's colorless. That's 1, and that is 2. So that means we're going to make 2 more fairies, and now whenever a fairy enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So now you guys are going to lose 2 life each. There you go. That's interesting. So it looks like fairies might win, even though Ren and Siri has a good setup. It's a little too late to catch up to all this unless they have a board wipe. But they do have some good things in their hands, so we'll see. So first of all, we're going to move to combat. Going to send the eagle at you. Actually, we'll send this fairy at you, and then what do we need? Well, really, you do have a flyer up, so we'll need to send, and it's a 5 something flyer, but we only need to worry about. So why even bother? Like sending crazy stuff. So this fairy at you, these 2 fairies that are 3/2s at you, and then everything else that's available at you. So we've got 1, 2, 3. You've got no flyers. 1, 2, 3. Kaboosh, you are dead. Valiant effort, goblins. You've got mail. You've got 2 3/2s flying at you. You can block and kill one of them with your Harpin, but the other one gets through for literally 3 damage. 1, 2, 3. Kaboosh over here. You are also dead. That's pretty cool. 2 KOs in 1 swing. That's awesome. Now, you have no flyers as well. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 damage in the air, right? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, 15 damage on 1 swing. They got a ton back that they can do stuff. This is impressive. Finally, Alayla doing some good Alayla stuff. Now, if only she could do that against real people when I'm playing on streams and stuff with friends. But regardless, that is all we can do. We will pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. Hey, we play an Animal Sanctuary. That's pretty cool. You can pay 2 and tap it to put a +1/+1 counter on target bird, cat, dog, ghost, goat, ox, or snake. So now what I'm going to do is tap 4 and play Roaming Throne. So Roaming Throne on cast, because of Maskwood Nexus, is both a dog and a cat, which means we make one of each. So these two enter the battlefield. Well, actually, we make 2 of them because of parallel lives, which is even better. 4 tokens enter. Impact Tremors deals 4 damage. Then Roaming Throne enters the battlefield. We choose it as a cat. And if a triggered ability would, so next time if we cast something, Rin Series ability will trigger it again, making even more tokens. All right, we're doing pretty decent. We definitely cannot swing in. However, that's probably okay. We're going to pass turn. Now, the fun part is that Fairies thinks they have it in the bag. They do not. So we lose a life, we make another fairy, we draw a card for turn. Unfortunately, it's just a land, so we're going to play the swamp. We can activate Luana's ability again. It would be a crapshoot because that's a 3-color deck, so it's going to be real hit or miss. However, why waste the chance, right? So we tap for a black, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're putting X is 8. We're going to choose what color do we think you have the most of. But when you're in a green deck, you pretty much got to guess that they're going to have a lot of green ramp and stuff. And it doesn't have to be a creature, it just has to be a spell. So we're going to choose green, targeting you. You have to exile the top 8 cards. Wait, is it exile? Yeah, it is exile. 1. Nope. 3. Nope. 4. Nope. 5. Nope. 6. Nope. 7. Nope. 8. Wow. That's where all the lands were. So you only get 1 extra fairy. We'll just say that this is 3. Well, we'll say this is 2, and this is the one that just came in. However, those are all exiled. I didn't exile them over there, but they're gone, so it doesn't matter. We kind of figured it was going to be a whiff, but at least we got one thing off of it. So the point is, it doesn't matter for what we think. We're going to go ahead and swing the board. Because we still have, well, actually, these can attack as well, but we don't need all of that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and the commander to get some life gain. So we'll just swing that because we won't even be super greedy. So go, okay, I'm swinging all this at you. Cool. In a response, I'm going to tap a green and an Animal Sanctuary. Constant miss. And we will sacrifice. Do we want to sacrifice? We do not want to sacrifice. So we'll just play constant mists. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn, so I will not declare blockers. They swing in, they don't do any damage. Ha ha. They're like, oh, I knew you had something. But it was just a green and a colorless. I didn't think you'd have that. Although I guess really, really knowledgeable players know what constant mist is. They might realize what that was. That's probably what we can say. That's why they didn't swing everything, but but yeah, that's all. They pass turn. We untap, upkeep, draw for turn. Now, what's funny is I do have 2 really good mana rocks that I would help early on, but we need to leave 3 mana up. Well, that's part of it then, huh? All right, so we're going to tap 3 and play a Chromatic Lantern because we need to leave this 3 mana up in order to play the Clinging Mists we have, prevent all combat damage. We will then be like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pass turn. Now you left more mana up. You untap over here, take a damage, make another fairy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are good to go. Draw off a turn. Just another land. We play that. That's not good. We can try it again because at least with nothing else, we're exiling cards from them. So we might as well, right? Tap a black. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to choose green again. Exile the top 9 cards of your library. Yes. No. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That was better. That was 3 hits. And we're exiling quite a bit. So we now get another 3, making this with Summoning Sickness 4. But we clearly see they have mana left up. So we're just going to do the same thing again, because there's no point in risking the entire board and leaving us open. 5 times 3 is 15, 16, 17, 18 damage coming in. Cool. In response, tapping 3. Clinging Mists prevent all combat damage that we dealt. If you have 5 or less life, nope, we don't. They're like, oh, is this how this is going to be? And you're like, yeah, it's how it's going to be. Nothing else we can do. We pass turn. Untap, upkeep, draw for turn. Now, the real problem, of course, being that we don't have any more chances. And it's probably going to still lose. But we'll see. We'll see, because it's going to do some damage with impact tremors. That might help. And plus, with Roaming Throne, I think it might still be almost enough. We'll see. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to tap for 2 white and 2 others. Cast Giselle Goldmane, 4/4 with first strike, and you can pay 5 to give attacking creatures plus X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Really good in a deck like this. But on cast, this is both a dog and a cat, so we're going to make 2 tokens, or take a token of each. Parallel Lives will make that 2, but we're going to Roaming Throne has this trigger a second time, so that should mean we're going to make 4 tokens, because we're casting a dog and we're casting a cat. So it's going to make a dog and a cat, which gets doubled to 4 creatures total. But then that's going to trigger another time where we make another cat and a dog that also gets doubled to 4. So that's going to be 8 creatures coming in. That will be a total of 10 cats and 10 dogs. And you take 8 damage from impact tremors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh yeah, we got this. And everybody knows what's happening next. We go red, green, white. We tap Seri to activate his ability. That's an activated ability, so that does not get copied by Roaming Throne, but it doesn't matter. You are going to take damage equal to the number of dogs we control, which is currently 10, 11, 12. Well, no. Nexus means everything, so 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So you're going to take 24 damage, and then we're going to gain life equal to the number of cats, which is also 24. Wow. Boom, you are done. That is impressive. I don't think I messed anything up. I know that game went relatively quickly compared to some of the other games, but I mean, I guess it's not that much quicker. It's probably only going to be just slightly under an hour. But the point is, it felt quicker. It felt smoother because there wasn't too much interaction, which is not great. You want more board wipes and more blowing things up because you need, that's how games go, real world. And as I said, sometimes when you leave someone alone because they're not doing anything, they can come back and squeak out the win because everyone else lowers the life total so much that they just happen to get a couple good plays at the end and they can pull it out. So that's very cool because that's what Ren series should be doing from the beginning. It should have been faster and been doing that much quicker. Roaming Throne and Masswood Nexus, clearly the keys to that victory and the MVP. You're not going to get either of them in a normal game, let alone both consistently. It was just really cool that they ended up, because I drew into both of them, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, there you go. I hope you saw some cool cards. I thought that was pretty fun to see how these mostly token decks did. They all did relatively well. And we'll see how they do in match 2. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.